When the world thinks they've seen all sides of Jungkook and Calvin Klein, all of a sudden, boom! There came a re-release of the latest photo shoot of the global icon, and the entire fashion industry shook again. No warning, no long teaser, just one sudden upload from Calvin Klein's official account. Jungkook's face, CK's signature monochrome lighting, and an atmosphere that feels darker, more mature, more biting than ever before. Suddenly, the internet exploded. Not only because Jungkook's presence is again stunning, but because there is something different this time. As Calvin Klein would say, "We're not done yet." Here's the next chapter. Industry watchers, photographers, and even major brand rivals scrutinize every detail, from the lighting direction to the fabric texture, to the subtle expression in Jungkook's sharper, more introspective eyes. This is the moment where a photograph doesn't just talk about fashion, it's about evolution. About how one figure can change the definition of masculinity, sensuality, and modern aesthetics with just one glance at the camera. And what's even more interesting, this isn't just any ordinary campaign. This is a re-release, a rare strategy in the fashion world that is usually only done when something is considered historically iconic. In the fashion world, this kind of decision is not a joke. The re-release means they believe that Jungkook's first moments with CK have already crossed the boundaries of a regular campaign, already a cultural symbol. But instead of repeating the same image, CK presents something that feels like an alternate reality version of the previous campaign. The setting is dimmer, Jungkook's hairstyle is a little messy, his skin is more natural without much retouch, and the lighting is made to resemble the reflection of night city lights, not a studio. All this creates the impression that we are looking at the real Jungkook, not Jungkook as a model. This is called emotional rebranding. Calvin Klein knows that the public is already in love with the first Jungkook, assertive, charismatic, and powerful. But this time, they display a more reflective, mysterious, and intimate side. They don't sell jeans, they sell new emotions inherent in them. In marketing, this is a brilliant move. When a brand manages to make the public feel something different from the same thing. Each photo this time feels like a short film that whispers, "Here's another version of her that you've never seen." And because Jungkook has such a strong, authentic aura, the public just takes it for granted. Without the need for words, the campaign immediately feels personal, as if Calvin Klein is not just selling a product, but copying the feelings of a person who grew up before the eyes of the world. Jungkook's new image, more mature and unfiltered. The re-release also marked a shift in Jungkook's visual identity. If, in the first photo shoot, he appeared as a global idol meets classic brand, this time he was present as a human being as he is. No excessive highlights, no poses made to look too perfect. He sat on the concrete floor, dressed in slightly wrinkled denim, the light of a street lamp shining from the side of his face. Everything looks imperfectly perfect. Calvin Klein knows that today's world is no longer looking for a figure that cannot be reached, but a figure that looks human but still attractive. And Jungkook, with his calm, charismatic, and honest charm, is the best medium to showcase that. This second campaign seems to show that visual nudity is not about the body, but about honesty. No glitter backgrounds, no glitz, just Jungkook, denim, and light. That was enough to make the world stop for a moment. She shows how vulnerability can be a new force in a fashion world that has been too obsessed with perfection. It would not be an exaggeration if many international fashion media wrote that this re-release is more intimate than the first campaign. Because now, Jungkook is no longer just the face of the brand, he is the narrative itself. As soon as Calvin Klein uploaded a new photo of Jungkook, the industry reacted immediately. Vogue Korea wrote, A bold move, CK is not selling clothes, but visual memory. While Harper's Bazaar noted that the campaign became one of the most successful re-releases in the history of digital fashion, the data speaks. In 24 hours, the first upload of the campaign broke 20 million likes across platforms, while searches for Jungkook Calvin Klein second shoot jumped 200%. Even other brands like Versace and Prada are quietly monitoring CK's move, because if a strategy like this works, it means the global celebrity marketing paradigm will change. Calvin Klein teaches that the world does not need a new campaign every month. The world just needs old stories that can be updated with new flavors. And who can make it happen more perfectly than Jungkook? She's not just a model with a handsome face. She's a symbol of how fame can still have depth, how beauty can have narrative. One famous creative director even called Jungkook a cultural reset in the fashion industry, because each of his projects with CK is not just about visuals, but about collective emotionality. It brings human feelings into a world that is too chilled by algorithms and promotion. And Calvin Klein knows, only Jungkook can do it in a way that makes the world believe that this is not just a strategy, it is art. What makes this re-release even more interesting is the way CK plays it. They did not explain why. There is no limited edition or part 2 in the caption. Just one short sentence. Still him, always. The seemingly simple sentence turned out to hold great meaning. Still him means Jungkook remains himself unchanged, even though the world around him is constantly moving. Always means that it is not a temporary phenomenon. It is the future face of Calvin Klein. Many observers believe that this re-release also became a symbol of two-way loyalty. CK to Jungkook and Jungkook to CK. Behind all the rumors of a struggle for brand ambassadors between major fashion companies, Calvin Klein seems to want to send a silent message. We don't need new faces. We already have a perfect figure. And the way they convey that message is not through words, but through visual repetition that actually feels deeper. In communication psychology, precise repetition can reinforce memory associations. And that's exactly what CK is doing. They don't let the public forget the Jungkook era just like that. On the contrary, they reinforce it until it becomes part of their aesthetic history. And now, whenever people hear Calvin Klein, the first shadow that appears is not the logo, not the product, but Jungkook, with a piercing gaze and silence that speaks volumes. With this release, Jungkook indirectly announced that he is no longer just a K-pop star who models. He is now a global fashion figure with irreplaceable characteristics. It doesn't follow trends, it creates them. Calvin Klein understands repeating something that has been successful can be a trap if not given a new soul. But with Jungkook, they actually exceeded expectations. Because every photo, every expression, every gesture that appears this time carries the message: Jungkook has evolved. He is more mature, freer, but also more aware of his own strength. And interestingly, the public felt it without the need to explain. In a world filled with aggressive promotions, Jungkook comes with a resounding silence. He does not speak, but the world hears. It does not sell, but the world buys. And this Calvin Klein re-release is the most concrete proof yet that Jungkook's charm isn't just a temporary trend. It's a cultural phenomenon redefining the relationship between people, fashion, and meaning. So when Calvin Klein re-released Jungkook's Photoshoot, they were actually saying one thing: we don't need a new campaign to be relevant. We just need Jungkook, because every time he appears, the world stops. Just when everyone thought the high point was over, When the fashion world was satisfied with the first buzz, suddenly, without a hint, without rumors leaking, Calvin Klein pressed the reset button and shook the entire industry with one simple but resounding step: the re-release of the latest photo shoot of Jungkook, the global icon, who is now no longer just the face of the brand, but a symbol of a new era of fashion marketing. And interestingly, this is not just another re-release. There's a hidden strategy behind it, a move designed with precision by Calvin Klein's creative team to spark a new wave of what they refer to as echo marketing, a strategy of reviving content in a way that feels fresh when we've already seen it. But wait, why did Calvin Klein have to re-release the same photo shoot? The answer is not because of a lack of ideas, but rather because they know one thing very few brands understand. Jungkook is not just a model, he is momentum. His every move, every time his name is mentioned, not only generates attention, it also sparks global interactions across platforms, across markets, across cultures. When the first campaign was launched, the fashion world was stuck for a moment. His photos filled timelines, feeds, even economic articles. But such a viral effect usually quickly evaporates. And this is where the genius of Calvin Klein lies. They know how to keep the embers burning. By rearranging the release timings, polishing the visual details, adding touches of color, changing the lighting tone, and changing the format of the digital spread, they managed to make the public feel like they were seeing something completely new when, in fact, they were watching an enhanced version of the old one. Simple but brilliant. However, what makes this move even more interesting is how Jungkook is again the center of gravity of this entire strategy. It is not just a visual subject, he is the visual language itself. In this latest version, the shooting atmosphere feels deeper, more mature, and has a much different energy than before. The camera no longer just captures his physique, but now feels like penetrating his persona. A softer hairstyle, a calmer eye highlight, as well as lighting that plays between mystery and sensuality, all these elements project Jungkook in a more iconic form than ever before. It is a form of visual character refinement that Calvin Klein has built. From a young rebel full of energy, now a global figure with a powerful aura of serenity. But make no mistake, behind all that aesthetics, there is the power of a well-planned marketing strategy. Calvin Klein is aware that today's market no longer moves based on conventional promotions. Consumers, especially the younger generation, are not easily impressed by a mere product. They're looking for a narrative. They want a story they can follow, even feel. Thus, these re-releases are not just reissues of photos, but recontextualization. They put Jungkook's story back into a more emotional and relevant context. This time, the theme is authenticity, balance, and serenity. Three things that are very attached to Jungkook's identity after his various solo projects that have been successful globally. On the other hand, the fashion industry also seems to be split in two. Some see Calvin Klein's move as proof that it depends on Jungkook, while others see it as an extraordinary strategy that underscores how one face can sustain the global image of a billion-dollar fashion brand. But in fact, numbers speak louder than opinions. Following this re-release, Calvin Klein's digital engagement increased markedly. The hashtag number Jungkook's Calvin Klein regained the top spot on various platforms in less than 2 hours after the first upload appeared. Fashion media such as Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and WWD highlighted this phenomenon, calling it a redefinition of the way brands manage viral moments. And sure enough, the domino effect was incredible. Sales of Jungkook's wearable clothing line climbed back more than 300% in a week. In fact, some items that were available again were sold out in just a matter of hours. More interestingly, this buying pattern indicates a new market penetration. Countries in the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and South America experienced a significant surge in demand, whereas before, the focus of the campaign was more on Asia and North America. This suggests that Jungkook's second wave is not just nostalgia, but expansion. In the world of marketing, something like this is almost impossible to happen without new momentum. But Jungkook proved that a strong personal brand can penetrate the general laws of marketing. He doesn't need a new campaign to create a new effect, just one small step done with the right timing and positioning. It's called the Jungkook effect. And interestingly, Calvin Klein's creative team seems to understand that very well. They're not trying to change Jungkook, they're deepening his authenticity. They put the spotlight on the most honest, simplest, but most influential side of themselves. The result is a portrait that not only sells clothes, but sells feelings, the feeling of wanting to be the best version of yourself. This is where Calvin Klein and Jungkook unite in a common philosophy that sincerity is the most luxurious attraction. So when the public thinks this is just a re-release, they are actually witnessing a great lesson in how modern marketing works. That repetition does not mean stagnant, but it can be the most subtle form of evolution. And amid all the hustle and bustle of global strategy, one thing remains clear. Jungkook isn't just a model who makes big brands seem more alive, he's the reason they feel like they have a soul.